reverse, so I stay on this cord until the train goes by. You know what I'm saying?
You're
And now we needed the train and it didn't come.
So today we're going to have a wonderful treat. We have Reverend Dr. Janine Burns, and just a little bit about her, because her bio is so long, I'd be up here for 20 minutes. She's the founder of the Guiding Light Foundation, an interfaith chaplain, speaker, celebrant, specializing in celebration of life services. She holds a doctorate of divinity from Emerson Institute, certificates in grief recovery, havening technique, and transformational practices. With 38 years and counting, soon 40, of teaching practical spirituality and international speaking experience, her work, including her CDs for Tunes for Transformation, and that CD was endorsed by Deepak Chopra, inspires many to live their lives fully. And so you can follow her on Facebook on Mindful Moments. Every Monday she'll give you it's very short, about a minute, to uplift you with some techniques to really calm down and get centered in your life. And so it's my honor and my absolute privilege to introduce to you my good friend, Dr. Janine Burns.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ooh, the energy in this room is splendid. Yes. I'm pleased to be here speaking at Joyful Gathering Spiritual Center, where practical spirituality under the guise of New Thought is taught. And Dr. Frederick Bales summed up this spiritual philosophy in his book called The Basic Principles of Science of Mind, where he said, there's a power within you. It can lift your life to its highest level. It brings success, companionship, health, happiness, and peace of mind. And as you tap into this power, it responds to you because this power is within you. New Thought teaches there is one ultimate loving energy that is present in all that exists. It is known as the creator of all that is. Some call this power God, spirit, source, infinite intelligence, divine love. And this is not a personality or a power that is outside of us, but rather a presence that is within each one of us. And so we are this divine power individualized. We are inherently spiritual beings having a physical experience. Or you could say, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So New Thought teaches that we co-create with God, that our thoughts create our realities, and we learn that whatever we entertain vividly enough and long enough in our surface mind passes into the deeper mind, the subconscious mind, and through the law of mind, also known as the law of resonance, also known as the law of attraction, we draw and attract people, circumstances, and events which correspond to these subconscious thought patterns. New Thought empowers us to take responsibility for our lives because we come to realize we're not victims of circumstances, but rather we are powerful, creative beings. And it is a spiritual truth that we live in an abundant, unlimited universe, and that within us lies all the wisdom, love, and power that's needed to create a peaceful, joyful, and productive life experience. My topic today is the other F word. We all know the infamous curse word that starts with the letter F, and today I want to talk about another word that in many ways can seem like a curse word because we don't like to look at it and it's very difficult to do. And that word also starts with the letter F, and that word is forgiveness. You see, forgiveness also often carries a negative connotation because it's misunderstood. People resist it because they're thinking it's a sign of weakness or that we're going to condone or excuse poor behavior. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you need to reconcile with someone who treated you badly. You can choose to forgive someone and then choose to never see that person again to protect yourself from bad behavior. Forgiveness is not dependent upon receiving an apology or even if you see the person ever again. Even if the person has passed away, your forgiveness remains valid. Forgiveness is something that happens inside of us. It's not necessarily interpersonal. We could forgive someone and never even tell them. Forgiveness is a process that involves the movement of the mind and the heart towards compassion, love, and understanding, thus freeing us from anger, fear, hate, and resentment. So forgiveness is about freeing ourselves from the mental anguish and burden of anger and resentment. It's about reclaiming our peace of mind and mental well-being, which allows us to move forward without the weight of the past holding us back from living with joy and freedom and ease. All of us at some point in our lives have been hurt. We've been wounded by the actions or words of another. And sometimes the grievances have been so awful that we've thought, I can't forgive this. I just can't, because resentment and hostility can run so deep that forgiveness becomes very difficult. And we feel we have a right to our indignation. I mean, look what they did to us. We feel justified in getting revenge. And when we feel betrayed, or when we feel anyone has hurt us in any manner, the voice of the ego, which it feeds on fear and doubt and negativity, and the ego seeks vengeance. This reminds me of a story back in the 1920s before antibiotics were invented. And there was a woman who was walking in the park and she was badly bitten by a stray dog. So she went to the hospital and she was diagnosed with rabies. And the doctor said to her, I'm so sorry to tell you, ma'am, but you have rabies. You've been bitten by a rabid dog and there's no cure for this. And the woman was really shocked and she wailed, I don't know, what should I do? What should I do? And the doctor thought for a moment and said, well, probably the best thing to do right now is to write your last will and testament. So he gave her a paper and pen and she started writing and writing. He left the room, comes back a few minutes later. He paused by the door and he sees she's still writing. Comes back a little while later, she is writing and writing. He comes back and again, and he comes into the room and he says, Madam, I don't think a last will and testament needs to be that long. And the woman said, Will Schmill, I'm making a list of people I want to go out and bite. There's a Chinese proverb that says, if you're going to pursue revenge, you better dig 2 graves, because your resentment will destroy you. Excuse me. Aramaic, that's the language that Jesus spoke. And in Aramaic, the word forgive means to cancel. Cancel. And so when you forgive, you cancel the demand or expectation that a person would have acted differently or treated you differently. You cancel the demand or expectation that a circumstance would have been different than it was. According to Wikipedia, forgiveness is the mental, emotional, and spiritual process of ceasing to feel resentment towards a person who has wronged you. It's ceasing to demand punishment or restitution, and it's letting go of animosity and ill will. When someone treats us poorly, we typically play the event over and over in our mind, and we repeat it, mentally rehearsing what we could have said, what we should have said. What does that do? It aggravates us. That's all it does, and it takes up space in our brain. And we can't change the past. As the saying goes, it is what it is. And if we keep wishing that things, circumstances, or people were different than they were, we just lose our peace of mind. It's important to realize that there's always choice when it comes to forgiveness. We don't have to forgive, but there are consequences to us not forgiving. Living with resentment takes a tremendous amount of energy and effort, and toxic feelings of hate and resentment stay bottled up inside of us, and eventually they seep out into all areas of our lives, making us bitter, angry, unhappy, and frustrated. And so what we're doing is surviving. We're not thriving, which is our divine birthright. We're merely surviving. Forgiving someone or an event is a very challenging process, and forgiving yourself is the most difficult. It takes courage, it takes authenticity, it takes integrity to let go of the things that have upset us, especially if we feel justified in our anger and resentment. Yet refusing to forgive and holding on only makes our lives miserable. And actually the other person, they're probably out on a Hawaiian cruise vacation. They don't even know that you're upset, and they don't even care that you're upset. And you're, in the meantime, wallowing in mental misery. So it's a choice, and the choice is up to you. Lack of forgiveness, it takes a toll on your health. The Dr. Everett L. Worthington Jr., he's a clinical psychologist, and he began studying forgiveness in 1990 after his mother was murdered and his brother died by suicide. And so Worthington is considered the most foremost expert. I see Dr. Margaret shaking her head. The foremost expert because he's published 35 books and 400 articles on the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of forgiveness. He also has a lot of YouTube videos if you want to check them out. Dr. Worthington said, quote, "Harboring a grudge is a personal stressor. Any chronic stressor takes a physical toll. It'll affect your immune function, cardio function, digestion, heart rate, and blood pressure. When your brain is stimulated because of stress, it causes your body to release the stress hormone cortisol. Chronically elevated levels of cortisol are the universal bad boy of modern living. Every time you think of that person who wronged you, it sends a shot of cortisol into your body," end quote. And just a little commercial, if you want to learn how to eliminate cortisol, come to the workshop this afternoon. I'm going to teach you a wonderful technique, which like within a minute can reduce cortisol. Now, in the same way, harboring and resentment and guilt towards ourselves for past, let's call it aberrant behavior, can have a similar detrimental effect on our well-being, and making self-forgiveness a crucial component of our overall health and well-being. So, how do you forgive yourself and others? You begin by recognizing and acknowledging the pain and hurt that you've experienced. We are emotional beings. And understand that it's okay to feel those feelings. We just don't want to wallow in those feelings. And we need to learn to be kind to ourselves. I call it the silver hammer experience. We beat ourselves up. I should have said, I could have said, what's wrong with me? We got to stop that thinking and not be harsh on ourselves. It's helpful to talk to a trusted friend or mentor or therapist, and sharing our feelings with someone who knows how to listen can offer great emotional relief and guidance. And of course, we know about practices like journaling and meditation and affirmative prayer. They're very powerful tools in helping to process emotions. My friend and colleague, the late Dr. Mary Tumpkin, used to say, "Spiritual understanding knows motive and cause." Spiritual understanding knows motive and cause. When you have an idea of the motive and cause for why someone did what they did or said what they said, you can instantly become more compassionate. This is a spiritual mindset where you come from an attitude of love. And we've all had experience where we've judged or criticized another without knowing where they're coming from. We've judged and criticized without knowing their story. A good example of this idea comes from the book by Dr. Greg Baer. He wrote the book called Real Love. We had him at one of our conferences, Dr. Margaret. And he wrote this scenario. He said, imagine this. You're having the most pleasant afternoon. You're having a poolside brunch with a dear friend, and you're at your favorite resort hotel. The setting is gorgeous. The food is fantastic. The company is more than you could ever ask for. And midway through this glorious experience, someone splashes. They're in the pool near you, and they splash you, and your shoes get all wet. Now, you can't see who this is because there's a lounge chair between you and the pool. And you're a little annoyed because your shoes got all wet, but you go on with your delightful time. Seconds later, another big splash comes from the pool, and now you're completely drenched, your shoes and your legs. And following that, next it's a wave. And now you're totally all wet, and suddenly your couldn't be better day is ruined. And so you get up, because you want to give that person a piece of your mind. And you go over there, you walk to the edge of the pool, ready to just ream them, as the expression goes. And when you do, you see that they're not frolicking and playing in the water. In fact, they are drowning and trying to save themselves. Suddenly, you no longer have feelings of anger. Suddenly, you understand the motive and cause of why they are doing what they do, and you realize this person wasn't purposely splashing you. You realize the motive and cause for what they're doing, and spiritual understanding knows motive and cause. And so when we can speculate, or even if we can just guess at what the motive or cause is of why someone is doing what they're doing, why they're saying what they're saying, why they're behaving the way that they are, we can become more compassionate and have spiritual understanding. And then forgiveness becomes much, much easier. Another example is of a mother always having the daughter double check the locks on the back door, and the daughter always interprets it as, what, does my mother think I'm stupid? Doesn't she understand that I'm capable of locking a door? And she gets aggravated at her mother until she realizes that she can look at the motive and the cause for why her mother does that. And it's because her mother, it's so important. Security and safety are important issues for her, so no wonder she asks to double check. And so suddenly, those feelings can just be diminished. And the daughter's understanding for the motive and cause of what the mother's doing completely eliminates her being upset. This principle of understanding another's motive is key to developing compassion. And when we come from a place of understanding, we realize that every act of unkindness, every act of hurt, every act of destruction that's done by a person is because that person is drowning in their own emotional pain and hurt. And instead of having anger and resentment for their actions, we can have compassion. We can have empathy for the struggle that this person must be going through. And it's this understanding that enables us to move forward towards forgiveness. Forgiveness is an attitude that implies you're willing to accept responsibility for your perceptions, realizing that your perceptions are a choice, they're not an objective fact. You have a choice in whether you get disturbed and upset because of something another person has done. And actually that's kind of hard to swallow, because no person can hurt your feelings or upset your peace of mind. Nobody can hurt your feelings or upset your peace of mind, Dana. Can't happen. Events are neutral, and you have the choice to either react or respond. And reacting is a visceral response when you react. It's driven by emotions like anger and fear and hurt. It's an impulsive action that doesn't involve very much thought or consideration. And when we react, our emotions are controlling us. And we say and do things that you usually later regret. Yet, when we respond, on the other hand, it's a thoughtful and deliberate process. It involves taking a moment and pause. And you can take a moment. You don't have to jump right in. Take a moment, reflect, choose to act in a way that aligns with your values and your long-term well-being. And responding requires us to consider the situation, our feelings, and the potential consequences of what we say and do. So we want to respond rather than react, because all another person can ever do is provide a stimulus. You determine how you'll respond. Nobody can climb inside your soul and make you react in a certain way. By choosing to respond rather than react, you are in charge of your emotions and your actions, thus allowing you to retain your peace of mind and act with integrity. So, how do you know when you've truly forgiven? What's the litmus test? True forgiveness is evident when you can think about that person or circumstance without harboring any judgment, condemnation, criticism, or feelings of X. So you think about it, and it's just gone. So when past grievances no longer trigger an emotional reaction, you know that you've moved beyond the resentment and you've embraced genuine forgiveness. That's how you know. For those of us who have difficulty forgiving, you may want to check out the amazing psychosensory technique called havening. There's 4 methods to haven, 7 techniques. I'm going to teach you 1 technique this afternoon. The word haven means a place of safety and comfort. It is a refuge, and it's a wonderful technique to heal emotional wounds. And if you work with a certified practitioner, you can actually remove encoded markers in your brain where you'll remember a traumatic event but not the emotions attached to it. It's spectacular, this process. I'm certified in the process. So you can check it out, havening.org, or you can go on YouTube. And another powerful technique is found in the Grief Recovery Handbook by John W. James and Russell Friedman. And by embracing these approaches, you have amazing tools to find lasting emotional healing and a sense of peace, both within your mind and heart. One of my all-time favorite ways is spiritual mind treatment. So please, let's take a moment to go within. I invite you to get centered. We do so by breathing, which if you do that enough, it becomes a strong nonverbal message to the subconscious mind that you're centered and going in. So I invite you to breathe in through your nose. Hold for just a moment, exhale through your mouth. Hold out the exhale, breathe in through your nose. Hold for just a moment, exhale through your mouth. Hold for a moment and breathe in again. Breathe at your own pace. I speak these words in the first person. I invite you to resonate in your own consciousness, and I also invite you to gently rub your palms together as I say this spiritual mind treatment. The mighty power of spirit, it expresses in me, through me, and as me. It expresses in and through all of creation. I accept the fullness of my own divine well-being. I choose to release thoughts and feelings of disapproval, resentment, and bitterness. Any destructive tendencies or inharmonious thoughts disappear and dissolve into the nothingness from whence they came. And it is through the creative power within me that I am compelled to be self-loving, self-supporting, self-nourishing, and self-respecting. I consciously release all thoughts and emotions of disapproval, resentment, and bitterness. And with an open heart, I freely and fully forgive anyone who has ever hurt me, and I forgive myself. I choose to focus on the present moment. I choose to move forward with freedom and ease. I am now guided to do those things that totally empower my self-expression in terms of my employment, my relationships, my health, my finances, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Right here, right now, peace, calm, and self-satisfaction are manifesting in and through me. With deep gratitude, I release this affirmative prayer to Creator God, and I trust there is only divine order and divine right action taking place in my life and affairs, and so it is. Amen. I'd like to end with the idea that ultimately forgiveness is a gift that we give to ourselves. Unforgiveness, resentment, anger, fear, hurt, they clog up the divine flow within us. There is a natural divine flow within us. Our direct inheritance from God is divine ideas and divine love. That energy of love is always available to us to connect us to one another. And divine ideas are always available to us. We just need to ask and we will receive them. It's a spiritual truth that the events in our lives occur so that we can have an opportunity to awaken to our divine nature. And according to the law of attraction or resonance, we attract people who resonate with our issues so that we can heal them and return to our natural state of wholeness and awaken to our divine nature. And so on a soul level, we get precisely what we need in our lives to support our spiritual awakening. So if you're having a little struggle today, maybe you'll say, what in this circumstance is inviting me to awaken to my spiritual nature in a greater way than ever before? And as such, I invite you to take some time daily to practice forgiveness, and as you do so, you are inviting grace to express through you. You're enabling divine love and compassion to flow freely, and this energy of divine love will heal hurt, bitterness, and resentment. And then, more and more, we become consciously aware and mindful of the powerful spiritual beings that we are. And then the more and more that we live from our divine nature, the more that we become a beacon of light, a beacon of joy, a beacon of hope, and a beacon of love into the world, blessing ourselves and the world around us. And ultimately, forgiveness is a gift we give to ourselves, thus opening our minds and hearts to a life of inner peace and spiritual fulfillment. And so begins your lesson.
Thank you.